All right, everyone settle down. I have an announcement for you today, Mr. Kalen said. The class quickly quieted down. Normally, Mr. Kalen would jump straight into the lesson, never making announcements unless they were important. He was an Allen, a species that stood around 8 feet tall, with predator-like eyes despite being a prey species. He had tall antlers, long slender limbs, and hands with 3 fingers and a thumb. His legs ended in hooves, a feature common among the various races in the galaxy. I'm sure you're all aware of the newest race in the Galactic Council, the humans, Mr. Kalen continued. Some students nodded, while others murmured about the reputation of humans, calling them terrifying, all-consuming Deathworlders. In Mr. Kalen's class, all the species came from peaceful planets with calm climates, abundant plants, and gentle animals. For the longest time, it was believed that sentient life could only exist on planets like these. That was until the humans were discovered. When they entered the Galactic Empire, they were dubbed Deathworlders due to their harsh and deadly home planet. A student named Athalia raised her hand. Mr. Kalen, is it true that humans really come from a death world? Yes, Mr. Kalen responded. Humans are the only known sentient species to have originated from a death world. Now, can anyone tell me what a death world is? Another student raised their hand. Death worlds are planets once believed to be completely inhospitable to sentient life. They have extreme conditions, natural disasters, poisonous plants, unstable temperatures, or dangerous predators. Some have just one of these traits, but the rare ones have multiple factors that make life there nearly impossible. That's a good summary, Mr. Kalen said. Now, I'm sure you're all curious why I've brought up these Deathworlders. That's because we will soon have humans attending this very institution. In fact, one will be joining our class. A stunned silence fell over the room. Students exchanged glances, their faces filled with unease. Athalia, a carnivore, was already a source of fear among the students. Most of the desks around her were empty, people too wary to sit near her. Now, with the arrival of humans, Deathworlders, fear took on a whole new meaning. Mr. Kalen broke the tension. Since this transfer is a big event, not just for our class but for the entire institution, I'm giving you the next 30 minutes to relax. You all know the rules. No leaving the room without permission, nothing inappropriate, and keep it quiet. After the 30 minutes, your new classmate will arrive. If you have any questions, feel free to ask. For the next 30 minutes, the class was filled with an uneasy quiet. Even Mr. Kalen felt anxious. He had never met a human before and knew nothing about their planet, culture, or way of life. All he knew was that their existence had upended everything the galaxy believed about sentient species. As he pondered this, Athalia approached him. Mr. Kalen, can I ask you something? Of course, Athalia, he replied. Do you know anything about the Deathworlders? How they act, what they eat, what their culture is like? Mr. Kalen sighed. To be honest, Athalia, I don't know any more than you do. We're all in the same boat. And if I were you, I'd avoid calling them Deathworlders. They might find that offensive. Athalia frowned. Do you think the rumors are true? That they're omnivores? That they're the strongest species? Mr. Kalen thought for a moment before answering. As for the omnivore rumor, I seriously doubt it. All creatures, whether primal or sentient, consume either plants or meat, but there's no evidence that any species has evolved to thrive on both. It doesn't add up. Athalia nodded thoughtfully, but the unease in the room didn't subside. Regarding the rumors and the strength of humans, Mr. Kalen paused, deep in thought. It's possible that, like your species, the Pyrox, which is carnivorous and quite strong, humans could also be carnivores. After all, they come from a death world. Before anyone could respond, a knock at the door echoed through the room. In perfect synchrony, the class fell silent. The moment had arrived. The door swung open, and in walked the headmaster, accompanied by a creature none of them had ever seen before. Mr. Kalen and the students stared at the human. The human had 2 eyes on the front of its face, along with a nose and mouth. It had 2 hands, each with 4 fingers and a thumb. From its appearance, it seemed to stand around 6 feet tall, and there was what appeared to be fur on top of its head. Athalia, the only carnivore in the class, immediately noticed the muscular build of the human. While she was accustomed to seeing muscular creatures, the solidity of this one stood out, making her realize that these humans were formidable. The way it moved, too, was strange, almost as if it were built for stalking. Greetings, said the headmaster. This is your new human student. Her name is Luna. Mr. Kalen nodded. I see. What an interesting name. Please, Luna, introduce yourself to the class. As Luna turned to face the students, many of them observed her closely. She wasn't what they had expected, but they knew better than to judge based on appearances. Luna cleared her throat and spoke in a soothing tone, not unlike an Alan's. Hello, everyone. My name is Luna. I'm a human from the planet Earth in the Sol system. I'm 17 years old, and I suppose you could consider me female. The class murmured among themselves for a moment, but the noise quickly died down as Mr. Kalin raised a hand. All right, I'm sure you all have many questions for Luna. If that's okay with her, Mr. Kalin said, looking at Luna, who nodded eagerly. Despite just arriving, she seemed excited to share about her people and her planet. Mr. Kalin, too, was eager to learn something new. His job was to teach others, but he rarely got the chance to learn himself. One student asked, "Are you carnivores or herbivores?" "Actually, humans are omnivores," Luna replied. "We eat both plants and meat, and we can survive on diets that include only one of those." The class went silent in awe. Even Mr. Kalin was stunned. Just half an hour ago, he had dismissed the idea of omnivores, and now one was standing in front of him, introducing herself to the class. Another student raised a hand and asked the question that had been on everyone's mind. But how is that possible? No known species comes from a planet that has enough plants and animals for them to be omnivorous. Luna tilted her head, confused. You don't have abundant plants or animals on your planets? She asked. On Earth, humans have been hunting and farming since the early days. In fact, many species of animals went extinct long before we entered our industrial age. Most of the dangerous wildlife is either in zoos or wildlife reserves. So your planet is a predator-class Deathworld? One student asked. Predator class? Luna asked, intrigued. Mr. Kalin explained, Deathworlds are classified based on the main environmental threats to sentient life. There are 4 categories: natural disasters, predators, toxic foliage, or extreme temperatures. It seems like your planet fits under the predator class category. The headmaster, already familiar with the upcoming reports about Earth, gulped. He knew Mr. Kalin's assumption was wrong, but was curious to see how Luna would respond. Mr. Kalin, Luna began, you say that my planet is a predator class death world. Well, based on your description, it does fit that category. But what? Mr. Kalin waited in anticipation. What is it? Luna smiled slightly. Earth checks all the boxes for what you consider a death world. We have predators, toxic plant life, extreme temperatures, and natural disasters. And we have multiples of each. The room fell into stunned silence. Even Mr. Kalin was speechless. How could a species have survived such harsh conditions and still become spacefaring? How is that possible? Mr. Kalin finally asked. You're telling me the humans survived all of that and became a spacefaring species? Luna shrugged nonchalantly. Yeah. Is that not normal? Mr. Kalin took a deep breath, trying to regain his composure. No, it's not normal. But it seems we have much to learn about your species and your home world. Unfortunately, it looks like we won't have enough time today. He turned to the class, the shock still evident on his face. All right, everyone. Remember that assignments are due by the end of the day. After that, we'll start our lesson on the human home world. Earth, Luna finished with a slight pause. Yes, Earth. Thank you, Mr. Kalin corrected himself, his words stumbling a bit. Yes, thank you, D. Luna. Luna raised an eyebrow at the way her name was pronounced. It wasn't the first time someone had mispronounced it, but this felt different, like the speaker was struggling to say it correctly. She reminded herself that the speaker was an 8-foot-tall alien who looked like a mix between an owl and a deer, so it made sense that things might get a little mixed up, even with the translators they wore. Soon after, the bell rang, signaling the end of the class. As Luna stood up to leave, Mr. Kalin called out, Excuse me, human, could I talk to you? I'd like to discuss some things regarding the next lesson. Luna turned back and walked over to his desk, sensing the conversation was about to take an interesting turn. After all, the brief description of Earth earlier had intrigued everyone. Human Luna, Mr. Kalin began, I was wondering if you could help me plan the next lesson. Sure. What do you need? Luna asked. Mr. Kalin looked away for a moment, almost embarrassed. The truth is, I don't know anything about Earth. In fact, you're the first human I've ever met. Luna didn't say anything in response. I don't know much about how you live, your culture, history, or even your planet in general, Mr. Kalin continued. All I know is that it's apparently considered one of the most dangerous death worlds in the galaxy. Luna pulled up a chair and sat down on the other side of Mr. Kalen's desk. I guess we'll have to start from the beginning. Meanwhile, back in her dorm, Athalia sat on her bed, deep in thought. Everything Luna had said, the way she moved, the way she spoke, was like a combination of every creature from across the galaxy turned up to the max. Athalia could only imagine the strength Luna possessed. But instead of fear, she felt curiosity. She would have plenty of time to find out more, as she had learned after class that around 30 humans had been transferred to the school. Things were about to get interesting. By the time Luna finished her conversation with Mr. Kalen, it was the end of the day. Mr. Kalen had spent the entire day trying to understand the basics of human history, but he quickly realized how complex it was. Luna learned that unlike other species, humans didn't unify in their early history. They experienced civil wars, infighting, and even mass genocide. Turns out, humans were the most violent sentient species to date. Luna was now heading to her shared dorm, carrying several files on her school's tablet. She had received the tablet earlier, and Mr. Kalen had exchanged files with her. Luna had received history on every other species in the galaxy, although much of it focused on the Alan, for obvious reasons. Mr. Kalen had received several files on human history. When Luna finally arrived at her dorm, she was surprised by its size. It had several rooms, including a bathroom, kitchen, and sleeping areas. Everything inside was imported from Earth, still with labels and price tags. As soon as she closed the door, a computerized voice said, "Gravity simulators activated, returning to human living conditions." Luna felt herself grow heavier, but it felt more natural than the gravity she had been experiencing all day. She jumped a few times to test it. "Yep, that's Earth gravity," she muttered happily. At that moment, another human emerged from the kitchen, holding a bag of chips. "Well, look who it is," he said. "When I heard we'd be in the same dorm, I have to admit, I was a bit surprised." "Hello, Kai," Luna greeted. Luna and Kai had been in the same class before their transfer. As luck would have it, their entire class had been moved to the same school. The Galactic Federation had decided not to handpick individual students and instead sent whole classes. "So, where have you been all this time?" Kai asked. "Well," Luna said, "I've been helping my new history teacher plan a lesson about Earth. But it turns out he knows all about it already." "Let me guess," Kai said. "He kept you in so he could learn more about it?" "Yep," Luna replied. "Turns out the rest of the galaxy is pretty out of touch. I'm serious when I say that half of them don't even know what an earthquake is." "An earthquake?" Kai asked, raising an eyebrow. "Yeah, an earthquake," Luna said, rolling her eyes. "One of the most common natural events on Earth. And they don't even know what it is." Kai chuckled. "Yep, seems about right." Brody said his war teacher almost fainted when he heard about World War I. Not to mention, several students actually fainted just hearing about it. Not only that, Luna continued, Caleb's sports teacher had to pull him out of their version of dodgeball because of how hard we throw things. And don't even get me started on the argument Jen had with the lunch lady when she found out no one cooks their food. "Sounds like quite the day," Luna remarked. "Also, what's up with the gravity? I feel like 5 times lighter outside of this room." "Well, you said it yourself," Luna, Kai replied. "These guys are on low gravity mode. Everyone but us shares the same gravity, which turns out to be much weaker than Earth's. Even if you compared one of them at their gravity level to one of us at ours, we'd still have the advantage by a long shot. So, we're basically the closest thing to demons compared to them?" Luna asked. "Pretty much," Kai agreed. On the bright side, the school set up the dorms with internet, which is a miracle, considering it's halfway across the galaxy. "I'm not complaining, though." Luna's eyes lit up at the mention of the internet. "Thank God. I thought I was going to die of boredom." She grinned. "I'm going to grab something to eat. Tell the others I'm here or something like that." "Will do," Kai said, heading back to his room to finish the bag of chips. Meanwhile, Mr. Kalen was reviewing the files Luna had given him, struggling to process what he was reading about Earth. It all seemed surreal. Giant windstorms that could tear buildings from the ground, rapid shaking of the Earth that could collapse entire cities, mountains that spewed molten magma. These were just the natural disasters. And he hadn't even finished that section yet. Instead of reading, he found himself thinking about how humanity had not just survived these horrific conditions, but thrived. Luna had even mentioned that humanity had reached a point where they were actively destroying their planet and ecosystem. The very thought of a species capable of conquering such a world, let alone reducing it to a mere shell of itself, was beyond anything Mr. Kalen had ever imagined. "Still working?" the headmaster asked, walking into the room. Mr. Kalen jumped in surprise. Headmaster, I didn't expect you. I thought I'd check in on you, old friend, the headmaster said. I assume you're going over the material for your next lesson? Yes, Mr. Kalen replied, rubbing his eyes. I'm just having trouble taking all of this in. These humans, by all accounts, they shouldn't exist. Tornadoes, mountains that spew deadly poison and magma. I haven't even finished the natural disaster section, and there's still more to cover. Their home world ticks every box for a death world. And yet, here they are. The headmaster chuckled. If I'm being honest, I nearly jumped out of my seat when I heard they eat capsaicin to make their food taste more exciting. Please tell me you're not serious, Mr. Kalen said, incredulously. I'm afraid I am, the headmaster replied. The same capsaicin that destroys every other race's digestive system in the smallest amounts. Humans consume it in quantities that would fill a payload of chemical warheads. You're trying to tell me that these humans consume a substance banned in every system for its potential use in warfare? Mr. Kalen said, burying his face in his hands. If that shocks you, you should know they also consume caffeine daily, the headmaster added. The same substance that, when consumed by any other species, overloads their system and causes their bodies to shut down. Mr. Kalen looked up at the headmaster, his expression one of disbelief. Then he groaned and slammed his head onto his desk. The headmaster chuckled before leaving the office. Don't worry, old friend. You've got a day or two before your next lesson with Luna. You'll have plenty of time to catch up on all things human. Mr. Kalen lifted his head again, letting out an even louder groan. If the shock from these files doesn't kill me, these humans just might. The next day, Luna was on her way to gym class. Her first class of the day was physical education. While she wasn't exactly looking forward to it, she reminded herself that she wasn't on Earth anymore, and everyone else in the school, except for the other 29 humans, had far weaker gravity tolerance. The most likely outcome? She would probably breeze through it. When she arrived, she was greeted by the gym instructor, Varek, another Alan. He wasn't the same teacher who taught Caleb, so he had no idea what he was in for. So, you're the almighty Deathworlder species I've heard so much about, he said. Let me tell you something, bucko. In my gym, you're all equals until you prove otherwise. You want to impress me? You've got to earn it. Luna gave Mr. Varek a confident smirk. I suppose I will then. Mr. Varek smiled, enjoying the challenge. Despite all the previous students boasting about their strength, they had all faltered under his lessons. I'll admit, Deathworlder, you've got spirit. But let's see if that spirit matches your muscle. He turned to address the class. All right, everyone, let's start simple. 1 lap around the gym. The students groaned in unison. None of them wanted to run. It would take at least 5 minutes for everyone to finish. Luna, however, stood there, looking confused. Just 1 lap, she asked. Mr. Varek turned to face her. Damn straight. Now move it. Get those bodies into action, Deathworlder. You're at the back. If you think this is so easy, let's see if you can overtake everyone. He thought to himself, chuckling inwardly. There was no way she would be able to outpace the others. After all, the rest of the class had been running together all year. She didn't stand a chance. At least that's what he thought. As soon as the run started, Luna surged ahead, leaving everyone in the dust. It was like comparing an athlete to a sports car. Mr. Varek's jaw dropped in disbelief. Within 20 seconds, Luna had blitzed around the gym, finishing the lap as if it were nothing. The other students had stopped running and were simply staring at her. Luna didn't even look winded. How did you? Mr. Varek stammered. Luna casually replied, Dude, my planet's gravity is like 5 times heavier. Even under those conditions, I'd still be faster. Mr. Varek sat down, stunned. Everyone else, finish your run. I think I need to sit down. Luna walked over to him and asked with a grin, So, does my spirit match my muscle? Before Mr. Varek could respond, the doors to the gym opened, and Kai ran in, out of breath. Sorry I'm late, sir. Got lost trying to find the place. Luna turned to him, smirking. I told you we should have come here together. Kai shrugged. Better late than never. So, what's going on? We were told to run a lap around the gym, Luna replied. Wait, 1 lap? You've got to be kidding me, Kai said. I'm afraid not. Luna pointed to the other students, who had barely made it a quarter of the way around. They're that slow, huh? Yep, Luna said, chuckling. Even with a planet that has 5 times weaker gravity, these guys still run slower than a 5-year-old. Mr. Varek, who had been listening in, was in disbelief. Did these humans really think his class, the elite sports class, was slow? He wanted to protest, but he had just witnessed the speed of one human. Now, he was about to see two race each other. Well, since we'll be waiting a while, Kai said with a grin, want to see who's got the better speed? Luna grinned back. Oh, so you're challenging me, huh? Well then, game on. As the two humans approached the track, Mr. Varric couldn't help but watch with anticipation. He had seen one human's speed. Now, he was about to see two of them race each other. The next few minutes went by in a blur. As the rest of the class struggled to finish their lap, Luna and Kai zoomed around the gym like lightning, each trying to outpace the other. Their speed alone was enough to throw off the balance of others nearby. By the time the rest of the class finished their lap, Luna and Kai had completed almost 50 laps. Luna had clearly been holding back during her first lap. The rest of the class went much the same. No matter what new physical challenge Mr. Varric presented to the humans, they breezed through it, weightlifting, push-ups, sit-ups, you name it. It didn't matter what he tried. The humans were just too strong. Often, the two would compete against each other, leaving the rest of the class speechless. By the end of class, Luna and Kai were more than ready for a break. The intense competition had worked up an appetite, and it was time to head to the cafeteria. If you appreciated the story and wish to show your support, please consider leaving a like and subscribing to our channel. Additionally, for each comment containing 88, I will heart every single one. Thank you for your time.